Rabbit Hole Roundup, episode 113, Top 5 AND1 Streetball Players of All Time. So guys, in today's edition of the Rabbit Hole Roundup, you guys are going to hear all about my love for streetball and the whole AND1 era.
My man, they called the Professor. Let's watch Professor.
And also to commemorate this episode, I'm of course wearing my professor hat. And honestly, if you guys don't know, the AND1 era actually influenced so many NBA players, as well as myself and my own game too. AND1 for a brief period of time during the early 2000s was actually almost as popular as the NBA. And just about every NBA player, especially the most skilled guys like Kyrie, Steph, Jamal Crawford, Jason Williams, those guys will all tell you what influenced their game so heavily was actually the whole streetball AND1 era. I mean, there was a period of time where you had Kobe pulling up to Rucker Park to hoop with Bone Collector. You had Jamal Tinsley pulling up there. So this wasn't just a nothing thing, this was actually a whole movement. Anyways, you guys are going to have to wait until later on in the episode to hear more about that, and see my latest top 5 list of my top 5 AND1 streetball players. But so before we get to that, I'll be starting off with a clip coming from Chris Brickley, NBA trainer, where he speaks about the importance of having delusional confidence, because doing so is the only way to achieve all of your massive goals. Following that, I have a clip coming from the Human School podcast, which talks about the difference between being a perpetual victim and staying in that victimhood consciousness, versus a healthy opening up and telling someone what's actually bothering you, and then of course working through those issues.
And how do you feel about that? Depressed.
This is a key distinction for so many of us to make. After that, I have a clip coming from Jeff Frazen where he talks about the difference between Mamba Mentality versus Funmaxxing, and how there's actually a positive shift going on in the whole sports world when it comes to this, which I would definitely agree with, but I also do think both sides have their place in our lives, and each one can work at different times, and for different people with different personalities, of course. Different. And then of course we talk AND1 and all that, and of course that's going to lead us right into the whole sports recap from this week, NBA talk, and whatever else I find. So anyways, without further ado, let's dive deeper now. Rabbit hole time, let's go.
This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
What's happening, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Jared Weiss. If you guys didn't know, it must mean that you're not subscribed to the channel, so you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button, be sure to leave a like, drop a comment, let me know your thoughts in the video. Follow me on every platform, and if you guys haven't done so already, make sure to check out my book, Fight Through It by Jared Weiss. All links purchased on my website, which is jaredbryanweiss.com. That's JaredBryanWeiss.com. Buy the book, support me, and make sure to check out all the awesome shirts in there as well. Every shirt's been designed by me, every shirt's made of 100% organic cotton, so any support at all, as I'm always saying, would be very greatly appreciated. So let's dive deeper into this rabbit hole now. So to start things off, I want to share a clip coming from NBA trainer Chris Brickley, who it just so happened a few months ago, he actually reposted one of my posts, and he also liked it, and posted it to his Instagram stories too. So anyways, this clip has to do with having delusional confidence and why it's so important to achieving your goals. Let's watch together.
How important is confidence over just skill and ability?
So I think this goes with if you're an artist, if you're an actor, if you have a podcast, if you look at the greats and they're all delusionally confident. Where sometimes you might be this person's crazy. But that's what it takes to be great. I always say you need to be delusionally confident to be a good NBA player.
Yeah. I want you to describe what delusionally confident means.
So what delusionally confident means is, you come up, you go to school and people tell you things and you watch things on TV, and being delusionally confident is everything that you've seen your whole life hasn't happened. You think that you can do something better than that. You think you're better than that. And I think that's delusionally confident. And then that's not how you treat people or, but how you think about yourself. I think you need that.
So well said, I couldn't have said that any better myself. All of the most successful achievers in this world most definitely have this quality. Now, the first time I actually heard someone speak about this was actually coming from a Will Smith interview years ago, where he spoke about how being delusional is the only way to get what you want.
There's a certain delusional quality that all successful people have to have.
And of course, as Chris Brickley just said, Like, being delusional like doesn't mean like you treat your friends any differently, but it actually comes down to like how you think of yourself and like how you see yourself. And also, of course, being delusional doesn't just mean like I'm gonna set big goals and then like I'm gonna sit on the couch and sit on my butt all day.
This is work.
You know, it's not as easy as it looks.
But it's actually about like I'm gonna put in all that work and I'm gonna make myself earn it and deserve it. From a young age, I was like always that kid who was telling all my friends like anything is possible. And so often like I was called crazy, told how stupid it was like to believe in myself so much. And this is why like I always set like the biggest athletic goals and goals to dunk at 5'6" and be the best basketball player I could be. And this is also like why like I'm still like setting big goals as a podcaster, as an author. And this is of course like why I believe like one day I will like have one of the biggest podcasts out there, as well as like be a best-selling author one day too. I believe in like my ultimate potential beyond where I'm at right now. And so whenever other people like try to bring me down to their level and say things like, you're only here right now, you're never gonna get any further, how do you expect to get from here to there? But I don't need that energy. The only person that requests to see my vision is me. And that's honestly between me and God. And so like even if I don't get all that, I'm still gonna land amongst the stars. That's always been my mindset, and like that's like why I've achieved so much, in spite of being a lifelong underdog. In everything, basically. Self-growth and self-improvement starts with having a delusional mindset. It's like on the flip side though, if you fight for your limits, the reward is you get to keep them. But if you believe like nothing is too good for you, and as like Frank Sinatra said, nothing but the best is good enough for me, then you're going to start to attract that and manifest way more for yourself. Next, but I want to share a clip coming from the Human School podcast. Now this podcast like has actually become like one of my recent favorites to listen to. So many gems of wisdom from these people. Every episode like I've watched so far has been super meaningful, and Miles Adcox like happens to be an incredible interviewer, and so every episode gets super deep. So anyways, the clip I'm going to be sharing elaborates on the difference between opening up in a healthy way versus wallowing in your own victimhood. So let's watch together.
Up until you're 18, you can blame your parents. After 18, it's yours to own and it's yours to work on.
And you can't get stuck in it. You can't get stuck in the dark parts of your story, or that's all you will present to the world. And if that's all you present to the world, then you will always feel victimized by what happened to you and not what you can become.
Short, powerful, but like right to the point. And this is like a crucial distinction like I think all of us need to make. I think opening up about like whatever it is that's bothering you is super great and helpful.
Letting my emotions out was the best thing I've ever done.
I mean, for instance, as a highly sensitive person, I can't hold things in very well. So when I hear people say things like, oh, we talk about our feelings too much these days, I completely disagree. However, here's the nuance. Here's the thing. Open up like about what's bothering you, but then you have to make this shift. You don't want to stay down there and stay in that like victimhood, and you don't want to stay like wallowing in your own misery. And this of course can be like the difference between a good therapist and a bad one.
And how do you feel about that? Depressed.
A bad one is going to keep you overly reliant on them by keeping you stuck in this victimhood, and it becomes like a constant trauma talk and like a constant focus on all of your trauma. But a helpful therapist will help you by listening to your problems and then work with you on changing your patterns and empowering you. Because of course staying a victim doesn't help anyone, and thinking like the whole world is against you and that your past problems have to define you forever, well, that's only going to keep that cycle continuing.
This whole universe is against me.
But on the flip side though, like as I said in this clip, this is why after 18, your problems are yours to work through. It doesn't mean like those deep-rooted issues don't affect you anymore, but it's up to you to observe your actions and like take accountability for all of your habits and see which ones are helping you to live your best life versus which habits are keeping you stuck in your misery. Now moving ahead, I have a clip I want to share from Jeff Frazen, I think his name is. So in this clip he talks about like Mamba Mentality versus Funmaxxing. So let's watch together.
The Mamba mentality is dying in real time. If you cannot be both obsessed and enjoy what you're doing, it's better to simply enjoy it. The biggest competitive edge you can have is passion. It's not obsession. Obsession is, I really want to reach this goal. Passion, joy is, I enjoy the journey to the goal. Don't get me wrong, I respect the crap out of Kobe, and I think he's one of the all-time greats. But there's a difference in the psyche, in the subconscious of an individual who truly enjoys the nature of what they're doing versus someone who's just dragging themselves along. But the magnum opus is when obsession and passion meet together. This creates the Tom Cruises of the world, the Bronte sisters of the world. One of my favorite quotes from Naval Robcon, he says, if you can't imagine doing it forever, don't do it at all.
Very interesting perspective, and I definitely feel the need to add some nuance here, because I do think both sides can work together as far as obsession and passion, of course. Now, I think this is a very important conversation in today's world, and this is also an inner debate I've been having for years now. And so the conclusion that I've reached is that both sides have their place.
We will cut the bike down the middle and give half to each of you.
And you don't only have to choose one way or the other. Growing up when I was in high school, I was all Mamba Mentality, and I felt this was the way I had to be. I felt I had to go on no sleep, wake up at the crack of dawn every day, and work out for 5 hours every day and push my body past exhaustion, until I learned the hard way this way was not sustainable nor healthy. And what happened was my progress started to slow down over time too. And so what I had to learn was the importance of balance and having fun on the journey too, and resting my body when it needed it. And since then I made so much more progress, and in a way healthier manner, and I think that's what this guy was referring to when it comes to this Olympian. I think it was Alyssa Liu. So having fun while you're on your journey or while you're training doesn't make you weak, and you shouldn't feel guilty about it either. However, a recent example coming from my talk with the biggest fella when he came on my podcast, which should be coming out soon on the Jared and James channel, he said something really interesting, which was that David Goggins was key to getting him started on his weight loss journey. That whole brute force mindset got him out of bed every day and got him to take action, but once he reached a certain point in his journey, he realized that too much guilt and too much shame wasn't healthy and wasn't serving him anymore. And so he actually found a way better balance over time. Same thing with me. It's if I'm going to take this game-winning shot, yeah, maybe that requires some Mamba mentality. Supreme focus, not caring about anything else, blocking everything else out. And same thing when I'm going for a PR in the gym. And so I am someone who loves and respects Kobe's mindset so much, but I think it's important for everyone to understand what works best for them and to incorporate balance of both sides. And also, as I'm always saying, I believe there's a big difference between the Jordan Kobe model versus the Steph Curry and LeBron model. And neither way is wrong per se, but I would argue the LeBron Steph model might be healthier long term, and I even think Kobe realized this towards the end of his career once he started getting hurt all the time. And of course towards the end of his life, unfortunately. R.I.P. Kobe. But he even started to find other outlets for his creativity and other ways to have fun in his life too. It wasn't just push your body into the ground 24/7 and then keep doing that over and over again. So I would say the best of both worlds is the extreme focus and setting those big goals and having no fear when it comes to attacking them. But Funmaxxing and making your goals fun and making the journey fun and having that balance is going to ensure that it's not a miserable journey, and it's going to be way more fulfilling long term. And I do think if you go down the full-on Kobe path with that mindset, most of us are going to realize doing it that way isn't the best way, and it's definitely not the only way either. And someone like me who has a type A personality, I had to learn how to not take all that stuff so literally, and I needed balance with rest. Other people who may have a more lazier mindset may need more of the other way around because those people aren't as motivated. Now next up, I want to share a clip coming from Jeff Teague, which is going to introduce the whole AND1 era, and then I'm going to expand on this afterwards. So let's first turn our minds back in time to the early 2000s era of basketball and streetball.
Coaching really is just how you can relate to players. It's not how you see the game, because people are not going to be able to see the game like you. You don't see that dude come off that pick and roll, that low man there in that corner going to be wide open.
You didn't say it too much already.
Yeah, as a kid, I knew that already.
I just think y'all just play more basketball with y'all friends.
You know what it really was? We watched tape. And when people say tape, I don't mean we watched college games and stuff. We watched AND1. And AND1 really influenced you how to play basketball. I don't care what nobody say. You learned how to pass, and you learned how to dribble.
That's 1,000%.
Because everybody did fancy passes, and the only way you completed a fancy pass is if you had to throw it early. So you dribbling and somebody cut and you had to throw a pass and spin, it helped you with your timing on stuff. So you threw it earlier because you didn't want to get stolen. You wanted to complete the fancy move. It helped translate into real basketball.
Never had to work on hand.
You was catwalking down the street?
Yes. I used to dribble all the way to filling them house between the legs and try not to mess up.
Nah, for sure.
let's see if I can do 1,000 dribbles in a row between the legs before I mess up. Like that, because you heard somebody say it.
Now that's facts, bro. Because back in the day, there wasn't too many people that was just saying.
Bro, everybody had handles.
Man, ain't no kids outside hooping no more.
Trying tricks, like trying to do trick moves.
One thing is, everybody used to watch them AND1 mixtapes, DVDs, VHS, and we'd pause it and go outside and try to until we got it right.
Every single time.
AND1 need to come back and save the day, huh?
They saved me.
I need to find that skip to my little verse Alimo tape.
Fire.
Okay, who's gonna get the better one tonight?
So I think it's undeniable the impact like AND1 had on today's NBA players. And of course, all the basketball purists used to hate on it.
That this game has always been and will always be about buckets.
But I don't think like all those guys understood like how much streetball leveled up the skills of like all the NBA players. It's almost like how I was saying last week when it came to the NFL Combine, how having all these athletic freaks, it doesn't mean like all those guys are going to be top level football players, but I think it raises the ceilings of the stars because those guys are going to have to become more athletic just to like be able like, to compete with everyone. So when you have these AND1 guys who might be like more of like skill specialists, I guess you'd call them. Now I do also think some of these guys could play in the NBA, and of course prime example is Skip to my Lou Ray for Alston. The only one like who did actually make the jump from streetball to the NBA. But this whole streetball focus forced the next generation of athletes to level up all their skills. And I know this from my own experience too. My own handles took off when I started incorporating freestyling and experimenting with different moves. In my early years of playing basketball, my training was like so like structured, and it was like work on between the legs now work on behind the back. But by the time 12th grade and like beyond started to roll around, I started working more on like unconventional moves, started watching more of the professor's videos, and this is where like I got the ball and the string handles, where I could basically do like anything with the ball. So when you see guys like Kyrie Irving, Jamal Crawford, Jason Williams, LaMelo Ball, James Harden, and like countless others, they're not lying when they say like how AND1 heavily influenced their games. And furthermore, there was actually a period of time, a brief period in the early 2000s, where AND1 was like almost as popular as the NBA. And during the whole height of the streetball era, which I'm glad to see like having a slight resurgence with the whole YouTube Hooper era, but you had Kobe playing at Rucker Park with Bone Collector. Jamal Tinsley was playing there too, I'm pretty sure T-Mac was there, and like Steve Francis. This was not just like a small event in time, this was building a movement. So now that like we've established how important AND1 was to the current era of basketball, let's go to my top 5 favorite AND1 players, with of course some honorable mentions afterwards. Now I will say that like I sort of grew up on the tail end of the AND1 era, so I wasn't following it like super closely while it was happening, but of course afterwards I became super passionate about it. I mean I knew about it and like I knew how big it was, but I didn't really gain a true appreciation for it until I found all the videos online afterwards and like all that stuff. So don't follow me if I don't know like every single underground player, but like if I have like a ton of knowledge on the subject. And so I'm of course going to be telling you guys my favorites. So coming in at number 5 we have Escalade. If you've never seen this guy's highlights, you're definitely missing out. He was the original streetball Jokic, I guess you'd call him. He was 450 pounds. He was 6'10" if I'm not mistaken, and like he had some of the best handles for a big man ever. And his passing skills were insane too. I remember being like really sad when he passed away, and like he also happens to be Mark Jackson, former NBA player and commentator's brother. He also actually played college basketball at Louisville, but his game was made for streetball. And so he became an AND1 OG legend. Number 4, I gotta go with Pat the Rock, who's still around currently, and like he currently trains guys at his academy, which I'm pretty sure is in Maryland. And fun fact, my cousin Adam, so years ago like he used to work for a semi-pro basketball team in Maryland called the Maryland Nighthawks. And so shortly after AND1 fell apart, his team actually drafted Pat the Rock to his team. And his team also had like the original White Chocolate, aka Randy Gill, who's still hooping these days online too. And also shortly after getting out of the hospital, post the whole acute phase of my life-threatening illness, my cousin got Pat to send me a video, wishing me well and like telling me to remember 3 letters which are AIP, which stands for like anything is possible. But Pat had some of the best handles and like sickest kick passes of all time. He got the name Pat the Rock because like he could pat the ball so fast, and like his handles were just like that speedy. And beyond that, his whole story was actually super inspiring for me, as I heard him talk about like getting cut from college, never starting a game in high school, but he never gave up or stopped working on his game. and so he ends up playing for the Harlem Globetrotters, and he became a streetball legend. Now I'm not sure exactly how long he was part of the whole AND1 tour. He may have rose to fame more on the tail end of it, but a streetball legend nonetheless. Coming in at number 3, this was a tough one because my top 2 were already set, but number 3 I decided to go with Bone Collector, and so he as well is still doing his thing online these days. So I think he really made a name for himself, balling at Rucker Park alongside Kobe Bryant. And what did we know Bone for? Collecting ankles. He has some of the nastiest hezzy moves ever. Total ball on a string, but it's also his change of direction and stopping a dime that make his moves so lethal, and so therefore no defender ever knows what to expect from him, and this of course drives his defenders crazy. And I would also say most of his moves are in fact legal in a organized setting, and I have added some of these to my arsenal, especially his stopping a dime hezzy. I love it. Stiff leg crossovers are great too. In recent years he's also teamed up to make vids with Kyrie and the Professor of course, and he's heavily influential to so many NBA players today. Number 2, my second favorite streetball player of all time, I gotta go with Hot Sauce, aka Hot Sizzle. Now I know all the basketball purists out there couldn't stand this guy, because of course the vast majority of his moves are carry or illegal in some way, but getting back to what I was saying earlier, the ability to manipulate the ball in various ways is why so many of us were able to level up our handles so greatly too. It's not just about legal versus illegal, but it's about actually transforming your whole ball handling ability and getting your handle so tight that you can do anything with the ball. So Hot Sauce was so creative with his moves, whether it was in and out stiff leg, going off the defender's heads, putting the ball in his shirt, putting the ball between his defender's legs, putting the ball around his defender. You can't deny it was super entertaining. Even all of his walk the dog moves and putting the ball around his defenders' heads, boomerang passes, etc. All that was so nasty. Now number 1 on my list of favorite streetball AND1 legends, drumroll please, I'm going with Grayson Boucher, aka the Professor. The Professor. Now I know of course he's probably the most classic cliche answer, because of course he's become the most successful AND1 player post AND1 days. As we all know, he currently has millions and millions of followers on all of his platforms, and starting with his Spider-Man basketball videos which took off, and now he's still crushing all these collabs with other famous influencers. He's still doing 1-on-1 and 2v2 park takeover vids, and he's still touring all over the world, and he's well known in every country basically. And plus a few years ago he actually featured me one of his posts when I was wearing one of his merch items. Honestly he seems a really cool down to earth guy. But beyond that, of course, I love the whole underdog story coming from the Professor. The whole no one thought he would be able to hang with any of these guys. A short, skinny white guy. Then of course he hits the famous game winner at Madison Square Garden. His handles have always been insane, crossing up guys, putting the ball between their legs, creating several of his own moves the 2x2x2. Then you also have the tornado pole and several others. His handles and his creativity are unmatched. And so of course, he beat out every player to make it onto the AND1 team in the AND1 tour, and the rest, as they say, is history. But of course, he reinvented himself in recent years once again. Now I would absolutely love to meet this guy one day, or collab with him, or get him on the podcast at some point. I'm speaking it into existence right now. Anyways, now for some honorable mentions. So first up we have Silk, one of the lesser known streetball players, but this guy's handles and creativity once again were insane. If you watch any of his mixtapes, his moves are so crafty, and he honestly turns ball handling into an art form. All of his moves are a thing of beauty. I mean, it's ridiculous how he fakes out his defenders, gets the ball on the ground, goes around them, boomerangs, goes over their head, and has them all spinning around with no idea what just happened to them. This guy would be an absolute headache to guard. We also have Sick With It, another ball handling master and maestro. Then after that we have AO, aka Aaron Owens, who along with Skip to My Lou Ray for Alston. Those two were well known for being the best actual hoopers in AND1. And so AO, if I'm not mistaken, he actually played in the G League at one point. And it's even got an NBA tryout, and I think he should have made it, but some politics were involved. But he was an insanely good ball handler and passer too. And he had a super fun personality as well. You also have Air up there, aka Mr. 720. One of the best dunkers of all time, and if I'm not mistaken, the first and only to ever do a 720 dunk in a live game. You also have other great dunkers like Spida, 50, Main Event, Half Man, Half Amazing. You also had like Alimo, another incredible ball handler, who had one of the best, smoothest spin moves into a dunk like I've ever seen. And also RIP Alimo. There's so many others like who I could talk about, like I could go on for days with these guys. But anyways, what do you guys think of my list? And if any of you are there who followed the whole AND1 era, who are some of your favorites? Anyways, now let's segue that topic into this week's sports recap. Let's go now. So now, we have a lot like I want to cover in this week's sports recap because we have 3 different sports I want to get into. So I'm going to be shifting from World Baseball Classic to football news to NBA talk too. So first up, I want to start off with the World Baseball Classic, which has been like super exciting. Honestly, all like the world and international events, when it comes to sports, have been like really good over the past few years. And so I actually want to give credit like to the NHL for starting that off. As if I feel like last year's NHL All-Star game was crazy competitive, and then like from there you had LeBron, Steph, and KD all joining Team USA in basketball. And then now currently you have all the MLB best players competing in the World Baseball Classic. And the US team is looking really good right now. In last night's game against Mexico, which the US team like hadn't beaten in something like 20 years I think, but of course they didn't have like the team who they have right now. Aaron Judge hit an opposite field home run to start things off. And he also made like a beautiful throw from right field to get the runner out at third base. Bobby Witt had 2 insane web gems at shortstop, getting the runner out at first. And Paul Skeens is that guy. He pitched an absolute gem. I actually saw like a post coming from Rob Friedman, the really good like pitching guy on Twitter. So like he was showing how Skeens has a 98 mile per hour fastball and also like a 98 mile per hour sinker, which of course makes him like unhittable. Because even if you're like correct on the velocity, you've no clue like whether or not like the ball is going to be moving or not. However, they also like almost lost it late in that game because Duran had 2 homers for Mexico. But tonight the US team is going to be facing Italy, who's also like undefeated right now. Now before I talk about like the rest of their competition, I of course see a lot of people out there who are hating on Tarek Skubal for leaving the team. And I get it, but like I do also see his side of the matter. First up, his plan coming in was of course just like 1 start, and then like he was going to go back to spring training for the Tigers. Then of course he got some of the fever and like started to like reconsider his decision. But now he's in a contract year, his agent is Scott Boras. I'm sure like the Tigers don't want him getting hurt, but it is what it is. I would have loved for him to stay of course, but it's his choice and like he's the best pitcher in all of baseball right now. Now this isn't going to be like a cakewalk for the US team. Japan is coming for that title. Otani's been like smoking bombs off his bat. Also in that Japan team you also have Yamamoto as pitcher. And that team like is having a lot of fun in this tournament. But speaking of fun, the team who's been like the most fun to watch in this tournament has actually been the Dominican Republic. Now that team of course has Juan Soto, Julio Rodriguez, O'Neal Cruz, Fernando Tatis who hit a grand slam yesterday. Now the one thing like that team lacks is pitching. But those bats can score and score and score. I'm pretty sure like one game the team had 12 runs and then like yesterday they had 10 runs. So I'm really interested to see like where this all goes. Now next up, the past few days have been filled with like some big time free agent signings in the NFL. First, last week we also saw Max Crosby go to the Ravens. And this was of course a big move coming from one of the best defensive ends in all of football. But this team is largely going to depend on like how healthy Lamar Jackson is. I mean, the second half of last season, like, we did see some signs of him slowing down, possibly. Now, I'm willing to give him, like, the benefit of the doubt. He was coming back from an injury. But if he's able like, to get back to an elite level, like, an elite speed, you still have Derrick Henry. Maybe you sign, like, another receiver. That team is going to be elite. Now, in a more surprising move, which, like, I don't think anyone saw coming, we saw a long-time Tampa Bay Buccaneer, Mike Evans, sign with the 49ers. Of course, Mike Evans, as we all know, is like Mr. 1,000-yard receiving season, attaining that feat in something like 10 straight years in the NFL, prior to last year, like where he was injured a lot of the season. I never thought like the day would come where he would leave the Buccaneers, though. And now he's joining a Kyle Shanahan offense with Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle. That seems going to be elite and like tough to stop. Shanahan, of course, is like an offensive mastermind. And so he will, of course, be finding the best way to use his new flashy weapon, Mike Evans. The next big move after that was Malik Willis going to the Dolphins. And hey, good for him, like, especially as a Packers fan, like, I saw what he could do last year. He definitely showed everyone, like, what he was capable of in those few starts when Jordan Love was down last year with the Packers. He can throw from the pocket, and he's also, like, a weapon with his legs, too. Now, I will say, like, it is, like, a bit of a risk from the Dolphins' standpoint. Because it's like, as we also years ago, Matt Flynn, the other former Packers back quarterback, he plays awesome in like few games with the Packers, goes to the Seahawks, and like he rarely ever played ever again after that. But I do see this as like a risk that's worth taking. I mean, like, you still have Quinn Ewers as another quarterback on that roster. And I do think Malik Willis is just as good, if not better, than anyone like you'd be drafting this year either. And plus, like, he's still super young too. So I am a fan of the move. And of course, that means Tua got shipped off, and he signed with the Falcons as of the other day, to go alongside fellow lefty QB Michael Penix. Now this move confused me like just a little bit, just because what I don't understand is like, why not just keep Kirk Cousins and make him your starter? Although of course it could have something to do with like contracts and money wise. Anyways, I'm not sure like if Tua's gonna be there to start or back up Penix. But I will say, generally speaking, injuries aside, Tua in the right situation, aka having top receivers like Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, he can get the ball out quick, but you also definitely know like what you're getting with him. He's someone like who has to play within himself. Then also yesterday I saw like the Steelers added Rico Dowdle. Now like, don't sleep on this move. He was a beast last year with the Panthers. Now let's shift gears into the NBA from this week. Some NBA news. So first let's start with my team, the Lakers. Now I see everyone coming out of the woodwork and saying like, because the Lakers beat the Knicks without LeBron, that team is better without LeBron. LeBron, the guy who's in my opinion the greatest of all time, and still currently a top 15 player, I find that hard to believe, and I'm calling BS on that. Now yes, there are fit problems with LeBron, Luka, and AR, but the whole 9-2 record with just Luka and AR, a lot of that came down to like who the Lakers were versing during those games. And also like the sample space with all them playing is still too small to look at. And for anyone out there who's saying, based on like the current construction of the team, all you need is like Luka and AR and then get LeBron out of there, I would love to see how far that gets you come playoff time. That's all I'm saying. Now I do love both those guys, but I just can't see the team actually being better without LeBron James. I'm also not giving up on the team as currently constructed just yet. However, as we all know, there are other roster flaws too. DeAndre Ayton of course has his moments, but like his effort isn't always there. And of course defensively, there's a lot to be desired. And it's tough like when your three best players all aren't great defenders right now. But we'll see what happens. I hope like the team builds on that win, versus seeing it as like, oh, we don't need LeBron now. Now I also got a request in my comments recently to start covering the Timberwolves a bit. And so first up, thank you for the suggestion. Now of course Ant Edwards has been balling all season. I mean like over his last 5 games, 31, 21, 41, 22, and 34. Julius Randle's quietly putting up another really good season, averaging 21, 7, and 5 I think. Rudy Gobert's averaging a double-double while also putting up 70% field goal percentage. Naz Reid is having a great season. And I do think this team is really solid. They're definitely right there like in that mix. I think a lot of it is going to come down to like playoff seeding though, and who gets home court advantage. And Edwards, as we all know, is like a bona fide superstar. And the team did take some massive strides last year in the playoffs. But my only concern is like, how are they going to match up against a Spurs or an OKC? And hey, they might just be like going under the radar once again, and who knows, they may actually surprise some teams in the playoffs once again. Now next, we have to talk about like what the Spurs and Wemby are doing right now. Wemby, of course, has been putting up insane numbers on both ends of the floor, and he's actually been like climbing the MVP ladder, because of course he may even be like the most complete player in the game right now. Now having said that, like speaking of the MVP ladder, I have been seeing in recent days, like especially after that game the other night, could we possibly even be like back to the Shea and Jokic at the top of that ladder? I don't know. But now getting back to Wemby, it seems like every single week, he unlocks a new part of his game. It's almost like Thanos with his Infinity Stones. One week like he's hitting a pull-up jumper. Next week he's doing a reverse dunk. Then like his ball handling goes up. Then he's hitting pull-up threes. He's not even like fully developed yet, which I think makes him so scary. He's 22 years old. And the Spurs as a team like have been leveling up too. And the fact like that team matches up so well with OKC, sheesh, it's going to be an interesting playoff run. De'Aaron Fox has been averaging over 20 a game. Stephon Castle's been like a really good underrated player, I think. And of course, shout out to Luke Cornett, not only for what he does on the court, but like what he does off it too. Because when it came to the Hawks wanting to have like a Magic City night to celebrate like that strip club, that's of course a bit much, I would say. So good on him for speaking up and like using his voice to make a difference. I mean, I'm all for freedom of speech and like freedom of expression. But I mean, come on, kids go to these games, that's not a good influence and like that's not art. And moving over to the Eastern Conference, the Pistons are suddenly having some struggles, Asar Thompson's been down with an injury, and the Celtics and Jason Tatum are on the rise right now. Tatum, of course, is still like getting his legs under him and still slowly finding his rhythm. But the Celtics were so good without him, so like now you add him back to that mix, and an all-world player, they could very easily overtake the Pistons in the East. I'm not saying it's gonna happen, but like I wouldn't be surprised if it does. So hey, the Pistons can't get too complacent. Anyways, that's your sports recap. Let's finish the video now. Anyways, that's the video. If you guys liked what you heard, make sure to leave a like, drop a comment, subscribe to the channel. I will catch you guys next time. Stay positive, stay hustling, stay grinding, catch you next time. Peace.